Hey, welcome to this live show coming to you from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And this is Learn to Tech, show number 6 for February 23rd, 2016. Today we're going to talk about backups and why a lot of you are doing it wrong. A lot of you don't exactly know what a real backup is and should be. And the reason why the real backup is at least two, but even more, three different places. So it's a subject chosen by you. Every subject we talk about on Learn the Tech Show is submitted by viewers. So this is the winner for this week. I've Learned the Tech Show number 6 for backups. Sorry for the lighting for today. It seems that my oldest lamp that I was using for lighting decided to end its life today. So I'm stuck with less light. So I try to do the best that I can with what I have right now. So backups. What's a backup exactly? People hear backups, and you know what? I am still astounded today to see that of my clients that I go to, a majority of them don't have a backup. And you know what? A lot of people don't actually think it's important. And that's always freaking me out a little bit because backup is important for almost everyone. And I say almost because, yeah, I could see this or that little client sometime that doesn't do much with his computer or her computer. And finally, there's really not much to back up. But for most people, a backup is important. And sometimes I ask, okay, well, backup is a backup, really important. I don't see why, if I lose my stuff, I don't see what's important here. And the thing is then you start talking, okay, but what do you have in your computer? Oh, you've got those pictures of your honeymoon. You've got the pictures of when you went to Paris 2 years ago, and you'll never go back there. Okay, and that isn't worth a backup? You leave it in your computer? Or even, I've seen people say, well, I put them on Facebook. So, even if I lose them on a computer, I got them on Facebook. Yeah, but there's a lot of things that can happen. Say something happens to Facebook, they lose your pictures. Say you get hacked. And I have a friend of mine actually that happened. Basically, he put all his pictures of his little baby and all the pictures as she grew up. And everything was on Facebook, but nowhere else. It wouldn't keep any pictures. It wouldn't keep nothing. And you know what? It makes you think, whoa, do you realize that you could lose them? And he did, because his account got hacked about, 2 months ago. And the first person to, of course, contact when something happens like that is, of course, me. So he said, hey, Gilles, my account, I don't have access to my Facebook account. What can I do? Of course, there are different things you can do. But first thing is he couldn't actually recover the account because he didn't have all the information required to do so. So then he said, well, I'll do another one. Yeah, but the pictures are there. And, he typically lost all the pictures because the person or the hacker that actually got his account finally destroyed everything. Didn't have any pictures left. So he has no pictures of his child before about 2 months ago. So that's why a backup is important. That's why you got to think further in your backups. And we're going to talk about that today. That's for sure. So what is a backup actually? It's simply using a means to save the stuff you have in a way that it's going to actually be important to you. So a backup is taking files, it's taking all sorts of information that you don't want to lose, storing it somewhere else. But people don't do it right often. You know what? People buy these big hard drives and they start putting everything on it. One of the common mistakes of backups is that people will take what they have in a computer and shove it on their hard drive, an external hard drive. And then they say, well, it's backed up. No, that's not a backup. Okay? What is a backup is having the same files at least 2 different places at the same time. So a backup means you got it in your computer and you got it somewhere else. It means that if one fails, you'll have the other. It rarely happens that both, but of course, we're going to talk about a solution for that because there's also something else. People don't really think a lot about backups usually. So it's at least 2 places. We're going to start with that. That's the basic idea of a backup. We want it here, we want it somewhere else. For most people, that will be okay. And even if they just manage that, basic idea of having files a double somewhere else. So that's a backup. Really is to prevent the loss of your important data. I hear people telling me, well, I'm not a business or nothing. I just have my own computer, and I'm just having fun with that. And for some reason, a lot of people think, well, that's for business. Backup's for business. No, it's for everyone. Everyone. Because for most people, you have something on your computer you cannot recover. You'll never be able to recover pictures. You're not going to go there a second time. And some of these pictures have very specific moments that won't happen again. You might not recover, some people have financial information. Okay, but if you lose all that, what's going to happen? What are you going to do? And even in enterprise, I am so surprised to go to a small business. And finally, an example that I have, a business that's running with about 10 computers, all centralized to a server. And the server doesn't have a backup. That means server drug, the hard drive in the server dies. Oops. You're all linking there. That's, bad thing. You need to have all that data somewhere else. And there's different ways to do a backup. It could be a manual backup. It could be an automatic backup. So these are different ways that you can actually do a backup. So when we talk about backups, of course, external hard drive is very popular. People say, hey, I buy myself a nice big 1, 2, 4, 8 terabyte hard drive, and I'm going to put my stuff on this. But the common error that a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people do, is that they put it here, they don't keep it in their computer. An external hard drive can die. Some people have dropped it. I've seen, it's actually very common. People have it on their desk, they're moving something, they didn't see it, drive fall to the floor, and basically you lost what's on the drive. And people think they had a backup, but it was not, because it's not 2 places at the same time. They just shove it there and they remove it from the computer. That's another problem. People often have hard drives in their computers that are small, and they want to take the 100 gigabytes of pictures and music and put it somewhere else so that they have more space on the machines. That's not the way of thinking of a backup. A backup, it means that you kept it on the machine, you kept it on the hard drive. Machine dies, you got here. That dies, you got the machine. At least 2 things. And one of the common problems with people with external hard drives is that often they manually will put the files there. And the problem with manual is, people are in general very, very lazy with their technology. And I see it. I see my clients are extremely lazy at what they do with their technology and how they, want to work with it. So they do one backup because they're like, oh, wow, cool, I got a backup now. But then they don't do it anymore. They keep the old stuff, but they have new pictures coming by. They have new music. They have all sorts of little details. And they just don't back it up. And that's the problem with a lot of people. The manual way is not necessarily the cool way. What I often say to probably most people that want to back up is, that hard drive, keep it plugged in all the time to your computer. If it's a laptop, at least remember to plug it in from time to time. On the Mac, there's a super program that is on Mac, which is Time Machine, and that thing backs up all the time. And, I have to give credit here to Apple for Time Machine, which is an amazing piece of software and reminds you all the time when you don't plug in your hard drive, hey, it's been a couple of weeks. Now, Microsoft learned in Windows 7, they actually introduced a backup. And that backup software in Windows 7 is not too bad. It actually is a little bit like Time Machine. It saves regularly. And it will tell you from time to time if you don't plug in a hard drive. Unfortunately, it seems to have been lost somewhere in Windows 8. So the first thing you should do is, if you have an external hard drive, a lot of them come with software already on them. If you buy a Western Digital, or if you buy some of the most popular hard drives, very often you'll have the software, and it's pretty easy to set up, and it backs up automatically. You don't have software, there's online software that you can use. And I was thinking today, I started checking out for backup stuff here in my computer, and I actually came across something that was very interesting, and that is the best free software for backups. And it's a TechRadar article, best free backup software. So if you Google TechRadar best free backup software, check it out. They have many solutions about backups, and if you don't want to look like this guy, you better know that an automatic backup using a software is the best thing that you can do. One that I recommend that they actually are talking about, and it's from a website from a company in the US called Ease Us to do backup free 9.0. So Ease Us is EASE.US. It is a US company. They have lots of interesting software, by the way, that is free, but one is backup software. They have paid stuff, but they also have some free stuff. So you can, check that out and see what they have. Check out every piece of software that they have here on that website. So TechRadar's got a great article. A software for automatic backup is a must. You don't have to think about it. You won't forget it. The software is going to tell you, hey, it's time to back up. It's time to do that little backup. So hard drive, if you don't have a lot of stuff, well, a thumb drive. In some cases, a thumb drive is enough. So you can use a little thumb drive, and you put your stuff on here. But you'll see there's different things that we can do, and different ways that you can do a backup. Another way that we can do a backup, and the mistake, here we talked about the mistakes, and I told you about the mistakes a little earlier. Mistake is manually doing a backup and being too lazy. That's one. Doing it in one place only. You think it's a backup. I put it on a hard drive, but I removed it from the computer. Another mistake. That is a problem. That is very important. One mistake that is not necessarily a mistake, because it depends on everybody, is thinking that your computer is always going to be on, is always going to work. There's never going to be a problem with my computer. It's always there. Every day I switch it on and it's there. Computer's there. Mistake. Never think like that. A computer is a piece of hardware that can fail, especially the hard drive. If you have an good old magnetic hard drive, pretty much all computers still have those. It's a problem. But, there are problems that can occur. There's, these encryption stuff. Think about all these departments. I was reading the article about that You know, and I talked about it in my news bulletin, that Los Angeles hospital that had ransomware on the computer and that encrypted all the files, and they had to pay 40 bitcoins, which was like $17,000, to some bad guys to get the files back. That means they didn't have a backup. Kind of dumb. So, you know, it's not just a failure that can mean you need a backup. It could be a ransomware or some kind of malware. Even I, as a tech guy, I do the best that I can to save the people's data. Sometimes it's, you know, viruses and malware, and what happens is that the person's personal data is hard to get. I have to remove the hard drive, plug it in a USB, get out the stuff that is needed. And, you know, that is also something that you got to be careful, because it's a mistake. You know, the tech guy, when he goes to your home, is not the guy to make the backup. He's the guy to fix your computer. You know, if I go to a client and the client tells me, oh, I want to reformat, but you'll have to can you do the backup of my 130 gigs of songs on my computer? First thing I'm going to say is, you back it up and you call me when that is backed up somewhere. I'm not going to wait here 6 hours for 130 gigs to transfer on a hard drive. That's not part of my job. And if I do it, I'm going to really, really charge you, because I'm going to be here for 6 hours. So, you know, the tech guy is not there to save your data from certain things. That's why a backup is something you need to do, not the tech guy. But in the possibility that, yeah, something happened, you got your data on you there. Of course, as a tech guy, I'll take the hard drive, put it out, transfer the important stuff to my computer, for example, put it back in, reformat, do stuff, and, you know, put it back in afterwards. So backup is important. And don't make the mistake of not doing a backup. So one type of backup that some people do, and some people enjoy this, is cloning from one drive to the other. That means you got software in your computer, and it does an exact copy of your hard drive onto an external hard drive. That's called cloning. And it's a form of backup. It has a big, big advantage. It means that you take this drive. If your main drive in your computer dies, you take the backup drive, shove it in your computer, and you boot up as if nothing ever happened. It's a clone of the original. So the first thing that you might say is, oh, but this is cool. That means this is the backup that I need, and that's the backup that needs to be done every day. There's a big problem with that type of backup, because it copies every sector of one drive on the other. It's a long process. And you don't necessarily want every day or every week your software to take hours to clone a hard drive onto another. This is a form of backup, but I call it more of a safety backup, meaning that, okay, I've cloned, this is cool, but it's more of a security or a safety backup. My hard drive stops, I really need my computer today. I take the backup and I put it back in, and you know what? I'm going to have a working computer at least today. But it's not good for, okay, I got my new pictures from vacation. I need to start the cloning process. That's going to take 8 hours to do for 26 new pictures. So you see that there's a good side to cloning, but there's a bad side. For everyday files that you just add, it ain't efficient. It takes a lot of time to do. So a backup is not necessarily a good idea. I have a lot of people that actually do that. And I'm always surprised, you know, I won't, you know, I'll tell them my opinion, because I don't think this is an efficient way of making a backup about anything. It's an efficient way to have a system security for starting up the computer in case the other one dies. It's not what I call a backup. And people tend to say, well, I clone all the time and backs up my stuff, so everything is there. Yeah, it's okay. I understand the fact that all the new programs that you've added, all the new stuff that's there, all the configuration of the computer will be cloned here. And instead of, having to reinstall the operating system, reinstall all of the programs that you have, well, it's already configured. So it is cool for that. I have to say, it is an interesting idea for that. But process is dreadfully long because it takes forever for drives to clone each other. And especially the bigger the drive you have, the longer it's going to take. And you do have to get your drive at least as big as the original drive if you want to do a cloning process. So good for a safety net, a way of rebooting fast your computer. Not necessarily super fantastic for a backup every day or every week. That's not necessarily a good process. I would say this is a process of maybe once every 2 or 3 months you can refresh the cloning so that it has the latest, drivers and programs and settings. But it's not a backup. This is more of a cloning process, I would say. In backups, you have also another type of backup. And by the way, the piece of software I was talking about earlier from ESUS and most of the software that we use to backup does this. So we've shown a full backup, which is everything. Everything is saved. But you've got something called incremental backup. And that's the more efficient way of making a backup. The Windows 7 backup tool actually does that. And most pieces of software will do that. And what they do, incremental means every little bit that changed, that's what I'm going to save. And all the rest that has not changed, I'm going to leave it like that because it's the same thing as yesterday. That means that if you've added 10 new pictures today, if you've added some new songs to iTunes, the incremental backup will look at your drive and say, okay, 10 new pictures, 6 new songs, 4 documents, this and that has changed. That's what I'm going to take. In an incremental backup, the first one is very long because the first one will look at your hard drive and say, hey, there's a lot of stuff here that I don't have. Let's do it. So it's kind of a full backup at first if you want. But then you'll have incremental backups every day. And that's efficient because this usually doesn't take much more than a few minutes unless you really, really, really do a lot of gigabytes of stuff. For the most part, this is going to be very, very fast. And that's why it's cool. It's cool because it doesn't take a lot of time to do. It saves everything automatically. It saves all the new files that you have. And that is the way you want it. Now, there's a thing about backups, though, that is important also. And a lot of people will tend to say, I want to back up everything. There are things that aren't useful to backup. For example, if you do a full backup, it's not really cool to back up the Windows operating system. Because if you back up the Windows operating system, you're backupping so many files that are completely useless. You're backupping a full Windows that will take less time to reinstall from scratch than to get the files back from such a backup. So one of the things that I usually will tell people is don't back up everything. Back up, for example, your user account. So when you go in Windows, you've noticed that you have a folder with your username on it. That's your account. That has music, pictures, documents, videos, a lot of settings of different programs. That is the good way to back up. That's my advice. Because it backs up your account, your user account, and your personal files and stuff. The Windows operating system, it's really useless to save it or to back up that thing because you just pop in that DVD or that thumb drive and you start the reinstall process. And basically, you'll have Windows running. Then you import the files from your user account. And that's going to be a more efficient way of backupping, and also will require less space. So say, for example, the total space on your hard drive takes 100 gigs, including Windows and everything. But your user account with all your personal files is 30 gigs out of the 70 gig, the 100 gig there. That means that you'll have 30 gigs backed up, not 100 gigs. So you can use smaller drives to do that type of backup. And the important thing to backup is really your important files. And if you really, really want to keep, because we all do this, we all have that special program that, we took forever for us to configure it. It took forever to fix something in one software. That's more of a cloning. Clone your drive to keep that information if you want to. That's going to be better. You clone a drive once, but after that you do incremental backups on another drive, and you just bring these files back after you've put the clone drive back in. So incremental backup is the best efficient backup, and it only does it when things change. So say today you use your computer, but you didn't do anything. You didn't save any pictures. You didn't do anything new. Well, you know what? It's not going to do a backup because it says, well, same thing as yesterday. I don't see why I should back up anything. There's nothing to save, basically. Now, we're talking about 2, and my optimal backup solution is 3. And if you ask most tech guys and most people that work in how to back up stuff, will say, oh no, three places. And maybe you're thinking, well, if I got an external hard drive and a computer, I don't understand why I should have another place, because I do have a safety net. I don't think both will break at the same time. Yeah, true. I don't think both will break. But the thing is, say your house goes on fire. Say a thief breaks in, steals your computer, your hard drive, everything. Well, now you just learned one thing. 2 backups was cool, but 2 stolen backups or 2 backups that were in the fire are totally useless. That's why cloud backup is another solution. But it has its good side and its bad side. Cloud backup is cool because it saves somewhere in the internet all of your stuff. An example of that, OneDrive. OneDrive is integrated into Windows. It is a solution that you can back up your stuff to the cloud. And that's cool because it means you have your computer and the hard drive stolen. Everything came back. Everything came back once you bought your new computer. You went to your OneDrive and you said, look, I'm downloading my photos, downloading my pictures, my music, my stuff. It's all there. That's cool. It has another advantage also that's cool. You uploaded your latest vacation pictures because you wanted a backup from on your computer, your hard drive, and cloud. Well, you go to your friend's house and you're like, oh, I have some super pictures of my Paris trip or anything. Well, you go into your account on somebody else's computer and you can show them the stuff in your backup, your pictures. You're somewhere and it's like, oh yeah, I got that document you wanted. Well, I can use your computer. I'm going to go into the cloud and get it in the backup that I made in the cloud. So that could be 3, a hard drive, your computer, or the cloud. It could be 2, your computer and the cloud also. But there's a flaw in the cloud that is there that's not cool. It's your internet speed. Say you've got 300 gigabytes of data to back up. It's going to take ages to back it up in the cloud. it's going to take an awful long time. And the reverse is true. If you get your computer stolen, oh, I'm going to go to the cloud to get my backup. Problem is, when you download, it's going to take ages to download 300, 400 gigabytes of stuff. So it's not super cool for large backups. It's not fun because of that. It takes time, it will take bandwidth, it will take some of your, if you're limited in your data every month, that's kind of a complicated solution here to back up to the web. But what I always say is, don't back up everything here on the web or on the cloud. Back up the most important stuff, the stuff that if you lose it now, you lose it tomorrow, you are going to be really sad. And that's the backup in the cloud that's important. It's really cool because you put your most important stuff there, your documents, your pictures, and you leave them there. Now, there's another flaw that you have to be careful in the backups, and I get that question all the time. People will say, okay, I got some really personal files in there, personal data. Is it safe to put it up in the cloud? That's where you might want to check for different solutions of cloud backup. You've got cloud backup like OneDrive, which is not encrypted really. You put stuff there and there's no encryption on the drive. So everything's kind of there. And if you have a problem, you can call Microsoft or, just talk to somebody at the OneDrive team. And you're going to say, well, I kind of lost my password and stuff, and I want to get my stuff back. And they usually can view the stuff because it's not encrypted. It's possible for somebody to look at the data. You put these pictures in the cloud and you've got some really, really intimate pictures in there. Yeah, an employee there could come across your pictures and look at them maybe. There is that side of the backup to the cloud that can be scary. So what do you have? You have other types of backup of the cloud that usually are more of a paid service than anything else. And like Carbonite, Kryptonite is for Superman. I like that, Kryptonite. Carbonite is a cool solution for backup that is very interesting. Carbonite will back up, first of all, if you take an account, it's unlimited storage online for most accounts. And what they do, although they do have accounts with more limited data, is that not only your backup is there, but Carbonite encrypts everything. So you got services that tell you, look, we encrypt everything that's on the web, everything in our cloud. And they actually tell you, never lose your password. Because if you lose your password, you will lose the ability to get all the information that's there. Because even them don't see it. Even them can't do anything about it. It's saved in some kind of weird big file that doesn't look like anything. So if you've got sensitive data, maybe you're a business and you're looking at, yeah, I have sensitive data, really nobody should come across the information I have, then the online backup solution like Carbonite is an interesting one because it encrypts stuff. Talking about encryption also, on your external hard drive, if you do a backup in the place you are in your external hard drive, you might also want to encrypt it. That could be another thing to think about if you have sensitive data. If your hard drive gets stolen, you can bet that the thief is going to take the time to look at what's on the drive. Maybe that's not what you want. So there are some software that not only backup, but encrypts your data. The bad side of encryption on a hard drive is that it is a little slower, but a good encryption will ensure that your hard drive's backup isn't usable or visible by anybody that doesn't have the software and the passwords required to view the data. So, different solutions, and it all depends on what you want to do. What's cool about OneDrive, for example, is that Windows 10, Windows 8 have the OneDrive stuff. And when you go to, if you check your computer, you'll have a little cloud in the taskbar, and you'll know that, well, backup is available. So here, if I go on the left side, I've got a OneDrive, and I can go to the OneDrive and say, yeah, I'm going to check out what's saved in the OneDrive documents, for example, and it's going to show me in this is this PC. But if I look at here, OneDrive, and I go into documents, you'll have, these are all the things that I have in OneDrive, in the cloud. So, it's pretty cool for that. And since it's integrated, it is pretty much easy to set up in general, and it backs up your stuff. What's nice in Windows 10 also about the backup of OneDrive is that it syncs with everything, so you can have your files sync from one machine to the other. So we've talked about having your data in your computer. We talked about having your data in an external hard drive. And we've talked about backup to the cloud. If you put all that automatic so that you don't have to think about it, you don't have to say, yeah, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. Well, you probably won't do it tomorrow or next week or in a month. Then it's better to have the automatic process on whatever type of backup that you are doing. Once again, never think that backup is something for somebody else. Always think, plan, and manage a strategy of backup. Make sure that you don't lose anything. The more and more today, we use our computers, and we have so many things that we acquire with time, stuff that you downloaded that's going to be difficult to find, pictures you've taken that you'll never be able to get them back. Some pictures, okay, well, I'll do a new series, but pictures of your kids growing up, pictures of your vacation, your wedding, your honeymoon, chances are that's something you'll never replace. I've got so many clients that I've seen through the years that were crying, and I told them, look, I can't do anything. I can't do anything about that. Your hard drive's dead, and I can't recover anything. And oh yeah, there are some services that recover dead hard drives. For most people, that's not really an option. Spending $10,000 to recover your wedding pictures, kind of expensive. We'll probably say, well, oh well, I lost it. It's sad. So it's very important to plan. It's very important to make sure that you back up. It's just incredible. Like I was saying at the beginning, I don't understand why people are so careless. But then again, you know what? I see people that are careless about the security. They're careless about pretty much everything. I don't know. It's something that I just can't believe. Make sure that the data you back up, like I've talked about, is encrypted if possible. It all depends. If you don't care that if the data you have is not sensitive, it's, oh, well, my pictures of my 10 past vacation spots. Well, of course, if you don't care and there's nothing really personal, you're going to like, okay. And probably the person that, might see that data will like, I don't care about your vacation somewhere else. But, encryption of backup is not a bad idea if you think about it. If you get your hard drive stolen, cloud backup, we don't really know. Cloud backup is that gray area, like a cloud, that basically you aren't sure who views that information? Who has access to that information? I mean, that's something that we have to think about. Who has access to the cloud backups? But then again, that's a good solution. A cloud backup is a good solution. Make sure that everything important is backed up. Once again, don't overdo it. Like I was talking about the cloning of drives, I have a lot of people that do that. They clone their drives once a month. And it's not efficient. That's one of the things that you need to know, and I always, I talk to them sometimes. I'm like, well, you do this and it takes a lot of time and you do it once a month. Incremental backup doesn't take a lot of time and you could do it every day. It's okay to have one clone backup, but it's kind of, not necessarily the best idea to have the backup stuff, done every day. The typical backup needs to be small because it has the problem in general of being, if it's too big, the general problem will be that you have a lot of stuff that you don't need. Like I said, when those files are not needed. And when we talk about backups, there's backups of a lot of stuff. It's not just your computer. Have you ever thought of, how do I back up my phone pictures? We all carry our cell phones today. I got my iPhone right here. I mean, there's pictures in here. There's a lot of data in here. Well, if you're on Android or if you're on iPhone, there are ways to back up to the cloud. The iPhone has iCloud. But not just that, you also have the possibility, and that's what I use a lot here, of using OneDrive. I've got OneDrive for iPhone. Why? Because it gives me access to everything I've got that I've backed up on my PC. So a backup solution isn't just for a computer, it's for your phones today. That's another way that you might want to save stuff. Sending it to a cloud service with your phone. There are automatic solutions. Like, for example, the iPhone has a nice one. If you activate iCloud, you take pictures, they're backed up immediately, automatically. On Android, of course, you can, install a backup service. Use, the cloud, Google Cloud if you want, or OneDrive, is available for Android also. So it means that, there's stuff in your phone that you'll never have a copy of. If you want a local copy, not a lot of people do this today, but you could take your phone and plug it in to your computer and back it up. But that's time consuming and not necessarily always cool. But backup means also that, I want to back up my phone numbers. I want to back up maybe my emails. Maybe I want to back up, some general settings that I've done here. And that's why each phone, each service like Android or iOS or whatever, often has some backup solution for all of that data. And one of the things that I often do, because for backup, you can also think about, okay, but what about doing a backup of some personal data, like a calendar, for example, email, calendar, and stuff like that? Well, you know what? That's the reason why I use Google Calendar. In my case, Google Calendar is really cool. Not only because it syncs everything from my computer to my phone, or the other way around, but it's a form of backup also. I've got the appointments to all my clients in the cloud. So they're in my phone. If the cloud suffers, it's not a problem because it's backed up to the phone also. So in my calendar on my phone, it's saved locally, and it's also saved in the cloud. So if I lose my phone, I can just buy a new phone, put in the Google account information. I'll get all the appointments back. I'll get all the information that I want to keep that's going to come back into my phone. So computers, phones, pretty much all the technology we have today is very important to do the best backup that we can of the important data. Look at your data, go into your folders. What I would usually do when I go to a client and they say, well, what should I back up? In general, you could take all of your user account. But I'd say that for a lot of people, backup desktop documents, downloads, music, pictures, and videos. And I can bet you that you probably have 99% of everything you want to keep in here. If you, of course, take all the user account, you'll add stuff that wasn't there. But I would say that the general folders of, the desktop, the documents, the downloads, the music, the pictures, and the videos probably contain pretty much everything you need. That's for sure. So that's, a smaller backup, and doesn't take all of your drive, because if you do a Windows backup, it's useless. A lot of people say, oh, I'm going to keep the Windows folder. Yeah, what are you going to do with that Windows folder if you if you have to reinstall it? You can't take the Windows folder and put it there and boot and it's going to work. It doesn't work like that. So that's why you got to be selective in the types of backup that you want to do. Make sure that you have at least 2. Don't do the big mistake of, oh, I take it from here and I put it there. And you know what? I can bet you that you'll have pretty much everything that you need. Always safe, and why not add a cloud backup for that, and you'll have a complete backup solution. So that's pretty much what I have to say about backups. It is a good subject, and I wanted to talk about it. I knew that it was difficult probably to make a total full hour of backups. The last thing that I could add to backups is if you use hard drives, stuff like that, try to get good quality stuff. Try not to buy the cheap hard drives. Get something that has a name, like my passport, my book, or my passport from Western Digital, stuff like that. If you got Seagate hard drives, if you're a little enthusiast and you like having fun playing around, one of the things, and I'm going to show you here, why not buy yourself a little kit? And with that little kit, what you could do is, get yourself hard drives like this, back up with these hard drives, and use those. And you know what? They're small. You store them. So for example, the videos that I do for YouTube, a lot of the videos I archive. So what I do is instead of buying, the hard drive with all the, the cables and the power supply, I buy a little kit of cables for hard drives. And I just buy the plain hard drives like this. So like that, I plug it in. When it's full, it's not too big, I store it, and I buy another one. And it's less expensive to buy just this hard drive than buying the full casing. So if you're a tech enthusiast, if you like playing around with, hard drives and electronics a little bit, if you know your way around, that could be a solution for, stuff like that. For businesses, a backup is a must. If you own a business and you've got a computer or multiple computers, have you thought, did you think about the backup solutions? I tell you, your computer can tomorrow not want to turn on. What are you going to do? What if the hard drive failed? Was there data in there that's so important that, you can lose clients? Maybe you have all that information that you have to send to the government about all the money you made and all the things you sold and all, it's really, really complex. A backup solution is a must in enterprise. And there's, once again, different ways. Cloud backups. One of the things that I've set up in an environment where there's 4 or 5 computers, what I often did in these situations, people would say, well, I want to have a backup. What could I do? Well, in the network, you can actually have a program automatically copy the important files into multiple computers inside your business. So that means if the main computer dies, you've got these files on other computers in your business, not just the main computer. That business I was talking about, that's what happened. The server had the only information about all the products they were selling. Well, when I went there the first time, it's like, okay, you have a backup for that? If that fails, what are you going to do? You lose everything. You even lose the financial information. So, what I implemented was, look, you got a network, multiple computers. We'll put a piece of software that's going to make a copy of that big folder with all the information about your products and prices and so, and make sure that in the middle of the night, when nobody's there, nobody's working, copies from that into another machine. And why not do it in 3 machines or 4 machines? The more you have the backups, the less the chance of having a problem of losing everything and all the data. That's one thing for sure. So backups, please, after this show, why don't you think about it and say, yeah, you know what, I should do a backup. I think I should buy something and do myself a little backup here and keep my stuff, my important stuff. It's more important that you think. And think more than just, I don't know, I don't have anything important. I would say 99% of the people that tell me, oh, I got nothing important, I start mentioning, oh, you don't have pictures or, and they're like, oh yeah, I got my pictures. Yeah, that you'll never recover if they get lost. There's more to backups than people really think. And remember, do a backup automatically. Never think, unless you're really, you're like, I'll do it. I'll do it. Every Friday I'm going to do it. I'm going to copy these files. Why not have a solution, a software that does it automatically? It's going to be way, way better. That's for sure. So good backup. I hope you guys at least do one backup. That would be really cool. And keep in mind that, you can maybe have your stuff stolen, or if, there's a fire or anything, a flood, cloud backup solutions exist for that also. So this was the subject for today. Learn the Tech Show number 6, February 23rd, 2016. So this is a show where you tell me what we want to talk about. I've got a few subjects left, but come on, keep the subjects rolling in. So what we're going to talk next week is going to be really interesting. Next week, we're going to talk about what hackers do, who they are, viruses, what's all the things that come. Why do people make viruses? Why do people make malware? Who are the hackers? Where are they? How come the law enforcement doesn't do anything? That's a very interesting subject that we're going to have next week. And we're going to have lots to talk about that. And you're going to understand a little more why. And we'll have a little history also of the first viruses, the first big virus that took the internet by storm. It was the first time. We're going to talk about what to do to also secure yourself, prevent yourself from all of these things, the different ways they try to reach you and attack your computer or attack you personally. So that's going to be interesting. We'll talk about hackers next week. I hope you are interested in our subjects. So this was the tech show for today. We're about 5 minutes short, but that's okay. You know, sometimes some subjects are not as long to talk about. And if you do backups, sorry, why not share that information and you tell me, yeah, I do backup. I always do my backup this or that way. Why not comment below the video? Let me know if you do a backup and how you do it. What do you use to do your backups? That could be interesting to, of course, share with each other. So this is a beer, by the way. I have a little beer for today's show. So this was Learn the Tech, show number 6. We are here every Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 2300 hours UTC. We talk about a subject that you bring on. So if you think about anything you want to talk about technology, and I mean anything, let me know, and we'll try to set it up. You know, I'm not going to be here always like this. Some of the shows I'm going to do are going to be very different. Some are going to be, I'm going to look at a table, and I'm going to do something, and we're going to show you. So there's a lot of stuff. One of the episodes that's coming up, we're going to take a look at the insides of a computer. That was another subject that people wanted to talk about. So we're going to use a computer, and we're going to open it, and we're going to check it out and see what's the inside, how it works, and you know, have a little history of how a computer boots up and how it works. That's all things that's coming up slowly. And if you have a subject, once again, let us know. It's always a pleasure. So from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, I say take care. See you next week. Remember, every Tuesdays we have your questions, my answers from 3 to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 2000 hours UTC. And we have Learn the Tech, show where you tell me what we're going to talk about. And that's at 6 p.m. Eastern, 2300 hours UTC. And you can send your suggestions of what you want to see at this show in the description below the video, or in the comments, sorry, and also by email, helpwithyourcomputers@gmail.com. Take care, all. It was nice to have you on board. See you next week when another Learn the Tech show. We'll talk about hackers. Bye-bye.